All right, I am recording. So hello and welcome everyone to this very first meeting of Kubernetes SIG IBMCloud. My name is Sadhu Zala and I'm one of the SIG leads, work at IBM, and I contribute to the Kubernetes upstream work. I have put the agenda link in the chat in case you don't have it handy. So please open it and you can look at the straightforward agenda we have for today. As I mentioned, we'll be recording this meeting and make it available on the YouTube. And as you see in the agenda notes, we have a very straightforward agenda today. I will brief about what is this SIG and what it is not, followed by an introduction of all of us, considering it's the first meeting, and then we will have Khalid, who will be providing an overview of IBM Cloud strategy and IBM Cloud Private today. Again, considering this first meeting, okay, good to have such an overview. So, welcome again. This is the very first meeting of the SIG, and the purpose of this special interest group is to bring together open communities, developers and users around IBM Cloud to provide an open collaboration platform to work together around Kubernetes topics. And topics on related CNCF projects like Prometheus, Envoy, and other projects. So that means the SIG will will work on issues, features, and track them that are open in the upstream Kubernetes. If you can see in the agenda notes, I have created a link to track issues. The issues that are open with label SIG/IBM Cloud. So I would encourage every SIG members when you open any issues that are related to Kubernetes, of course, but with IBM Cloud, then please use the label so that we can track them and discuss in these SIG meetings and on the Slack channels. The SIG will also encourage members of this SIG from IBM Cloud teams, from the users, from the cloud customers, and their developers and users to share brief demos that can be of interest to a broader open source community around Kubernetes. And the SIG will also encourage and help the IBM Cloud developers, right? Again, IBMers and non-IBMers alike to contribute to the upstream Kubernetes. As we know, lots of folks working on the cloud, they not necessarily knows the upstream development processes. Many times they run into issues, many times they create a workaround, and it never reach to the Kubernetes upstream. But we will encourage folks and we will help them to open issues, to provide a fix, so that we just make the Kubernetes better. We will learn and contribute together to the success of the SIG. All right, so, and what it is not, right? As I mentioned earlier, the SIG is not for any commercial or product specific issues to discuss here. Which are not related to the Kubernetes side of the IBM Cloud. We have a separate channel for those kind of discussions. So we will encourage folks to use those channels for such discussions. All right, so that's brief about the SIG. I would like to have everyone introduce themselves, just a brief introduction, and I can start with me once more. My name is Sadhu Zala. I'm one of the IBM Cloud SIG leads, and I work for IBM, and I contribute to the upstream Kubernetes and other projects like etcd, Helm, etc. So I'm just going with everyone as I see them in the Zoom. So why don't you introduce yourself, Khalid, another SIG lead, please?
Sure. I'm Khalid Ahmed. I'm a distinguished engineer at IBM, and I've been working on our Kubernetes-based products, specifically around our private cloud offerings, as well as my background is in high-performance computing and grid computing. So I've been working on integrating Kubernetes into those types of environments as well.
Great. Thanks, Khalid. Doug?
Yeah, Doug Davis, also IBM, obviously. Mainly heading up the team who's involved in all of our open source activities related to containers, that's Docker, Kubernetes, and that kind of stuff. Also working on other CNCF related projects like Performance Working Group, the Serverless Working Group, as well as the Open Source Broker API work.
Perfect. Thanks, Doug. I'm going with Zoom ID. I see Art, please.
Hello, I'm Art. I work on the IBM Cloud Container Service documentation. So I'm here just to kind of learn more about the Kubernetes open source community and see how that can impact our documentation for our customers and users.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks. Eduardo, please.
Yes, Eduardo Patrocinio, Distinguished Engineer at IBM, focus on building cloud solutions. Zadev, I don't contribute to anything. I just create a mess everywhere that I go. And Brad agrees with that. But to be fair, I lead a lot of the client implementations that we have with IBM, especially around our hybrid cloud solutions.
Well, thanks, Ed. I'm sure your mess will bring a lot of value to the SIG to work on, so appreciate. Brad, please.
And his messes bring lots of value to IBM, of course. Very nice, Eduardo. I'm Brad Topol. I'm an IBM Distinguished Engineer, Open Technology and Developer Advocacy, focused on leading upstream efforts for Kubernetes. I contribute to Kubernetes on the Conformance Work Group, and I'm a kube doc maintainer. Also focused on several of our developer advocacy initiatives.
Well, thanks, Brad. Thanks for all the work you contribute to Kubernetes. Nimesh, please.
Sure. I'm Nimesh Bhatia. I'm Program Director for Cloud and Container Technology in IBM. And I help team to enable them to get what they want to be more productive and contribute to the upstream open technology development. And I also work tightly with community to help them out as well to see what are the different things they need from us.
Okay, great. Thank you, Nimesh. And last but not least, Dan, please. Hello, Dan. One more time, Dan, can you hear me, please? All right, I think if we can have Dan later to introduce himself when he's available. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Khalid to provide an overview of IBM Cloud strategy, and then followed by just a brief overview of IBM Cloud Private. As I mentioned earlier, part of the SIG, every SIG meetings we're going to have first 5-10 minutes to discuss and some of the IBM Cloud features related to Kubernetes, so that folks can have a better understanding of those features and have find it a good learning. So, Khalid, one more time, thank you for going to present this one. And I see that Dan is having issue with the audio. So, hey Dan, you can hear, so no problem. Thanks. And Khalid, just handing over to you now.
Sure. So let me talk a little bit about IBM's strategy and how kind of Kubernetes is a very important element of that strategy. So as you know, IBM positions itself as a cloud and cognitive computing company. We have a rich set of services and middleware capabilities around analytics, data ingestion, data curation, analysis, and machine learning, deep learning, as well as traditional kind of DevOps services, databases, and app servers, and those technologies. So we realize that the world is moving to a cloud, whether it's a on-premise type of environment or a public environment, and we need an infrastructure that enables flexible deployment and operation for our clients of this type of middleware and kind of cloud-enabled, cloud-native application, all in a consistent manner, right? So about 3 years ago, or even maybe a little bit more, we started looking at Kubernetes, saw it, evolving, and decided that, to place our bets on Kubernetes. So we did stand up a Kubernetes-based container service in our public cloud. And last year, we also announced a common, consistent offering for on-premise environments. And what we're really doing is enabling a flexible deployment model that Kubernetes provides, a way of consistently packaging our middleware with Docker and deploying it via Kubernetes. So a lot of the IBM middleware teams and the cloud teams as well that are providing software as service have standardized on Kubernetes as a deployment model. Now, you also see in here that support for virtual machines and other forms of deployment, but Kubernetes and containers are kind of the primary focus of the overall IBM in order to deliver the value-added services that we provide around data analytics and AI to our clients and to anybody wishing to use IBM services. So the two offerings that we're going to talk about, the one I'll talk about is the private cloud offering, but there's an equivalent offering that is using Kubernetes as a managed service, delivered as a managed service on the public cloud. And as you see here, they share a common architecture. A lot of the services that you need around Kubernetes in terms of authentication, authorization, role-based access control, monitoring, logging, all those things are consistent between these two environments. So whether it's IBM managed or customer managed, we want to make the experience of operating and running the middleware services, the data, AI, analytics services, consistent between these two environments. Obviously, on the cloud side, we're focused on more on the x86, but on the on-premise side, where we're providing a software package called IBM Cloud Private, we run both on x86 as well as our traditional hardware platforms, Power and Z. We do think those platforms have certain optimizations that are very relevant in a cloud type of environment around security, around performance for things like GPU workloads that would support machine learning, deep learning type of applications. Okay, so Kubernetes is a component of this architecture and an important component, but there are other components that we are leveraging. And one of the key tenets of IBM's cloud is to provide consistency, but by giving choice, and by basing our products and all the things that are enabled on top of it, on top of these open source technologies. We give customers that flexibility to move around, right? Whether it's our cloud or your on-premise environment or even a third-party cloud. We're using these common building blocks that are industry standard. And we're contributing to these, and I'll talk a little bit about that as well, but also leveraging them in our products as a foundational elements on which we build other differentiated capabilities that clients need to run their business. So Docker is an important element that enables you to package all the applications. So a lot of the IBM middleware, as I mentioned, is packaged as Docker images. We're using Kubernetes as the core orchestration engine to run and manage in a distributed environment. We're using the Helm project as a way of packaging the Kubernetes artifacts and making them, kind of a standard way of deploying things within the catalog, right? And we're also providing support. We leverage Terraform as a technology to enable the deployment and provisioning of infrastructure as code in different types of cloud environments. So whether it's our cloud or third-party clouds, we can leverage Terraform to provision the infrastructure to set up the VMs and load balancers and storage, on top of which we run the container services that Kubernetes provides. Okay, so next chart, I think, is a little bit of a drill down into how we're using Kubernetes and Helm as a foundational element of the cloud. What we're doing on top of Kubernetes is to provide a layer of management services, right, that simplify the operations of a Kubernetes environment. So whether this is as a kind of a managed service on the public cloud or as an on-premise offering, we're using things like standard components like the Elasticsearch stack for the logging, monitoring, Grafana, Kibana, and so on as dashboards. We leverage OpenID Connect for security integration with OAuth and backend LDAP systems and so on. And we provide a layer of software that enables you to connect these different environments together and be able to deploy and manage this thing as a coherent entity. A lot of clients care about compliance and those kinds of things, so we're making a lot of investments in there. Then on top of this foundation, the main thing that we're providing in IBM Cloud Private, and what we think is one of the differentiators, is the whole middleware stack, right? The cloud Kubernetes is there to support the life cycle of applications running, databases, message queuing systems, as well as our analytic services and like our DSX platform, as well as machine learning and even high performance computing types of workloads, all within this environment. And we're not limited to just IBM middleware. We support a lot of the open source middleware to run on this platform, because that's what clients provide, and that's what embracing Kubernetes gives us a rich collection of other tools and middleware that run on this platform. And obviously, as at the lower layer, as I mentioned, we support the various. We allow you to run on any existing infrastructure, whether it's on premise, and then extending that out to the cloud, leveraging your existing investments in hardware that you might have, whether it's storage, networking, and servers. Okay, so a next little bit of deeper dive. I'll just kind of give you the how we deploy and leverage Kubernetes within the environment, right? So we have the Kubernetes concepts of a master and proxies and workers and accessing persistent storage. We layer on a network mesh that allows for isolation of tenants and protection of data and so on. And allows you to manage that infrastructure in kind of an integrated way. And then, obviously the Kubernetes components layer on top of it. So we have a installation that allows you to take all the components. The components themselves are Dockerized. All the Kubernetes components, as well as the management services that you see layered on here, are enabled to run within a Dockerized type of environment. So that helps in the management and upgrade of all the components. A lot of the management components themselves, although they're intrinsic to the platform, are also delivered as Helm charts that give that flexibility to do the life cycle management of the management services, right? So we built things like image vulnerability scanning and security tools and so on as Helm charts that can be deployed within this environment. So security is a big consideration. Availability with day 2 type of operational management, log analytics, alerting, and so on, right? And then all the DevOps services that enable continuous delivery are enabled on this platform, including open source tools like Jenkins, as well as IBM value add tools like Urban Code to run within this. So let me maybe pause a little bit and just kind of switch over to kind of just give you a view of what the tool looks like, so you can see how we expose Kubernetes within the environment. So let me share again. If you can see my dashboard. Okay, can you guys see this?
Yes.
Yeah. So after you install Kubernetes, we obviously, we provide, you can run the standard open source Kubernetes dashboard within the environment, but we also provide another dashboard that integrates a few more things within that. So we're obviously looking at, Kubernetes as a runtime that we run our various middlewares on. We expose all the Kubernetes concepts, whether it's daemon sets or deployments, and jobs, and those kinds of things within the environment. We allow you to access configuration objects like secrets and config maps. I'm not going to go into all those details, but access to monitoring, logging, and those functionality. You can see nodes here. I just have a one node environment. It's relatively simple. It runs different services, the master, management, proxy, all in one. So it doesn't take a big environment to run the IBM Cloud Private. You can run it even on your laptop, right? This is running on a machine on a cloud, but you can run it on your laptop if you have, like, I think it requires at least 12 to 16 gigs of memory. So if you have a decent sized laptop, you can run it on there in one VM. Okay. So the main thing that we provide, as I mentioned, is the whole kind of catalog experience. And here we're using the Helm chart format to package all our middleware, as well as expose third-party middleware. So if you look at the IBM catalog, you have things like WebSphere in there, WebSphere Liberty. You have message queuing and DB2. You have open source tools like Jenkins and MariaDB, and the analytics services like DSX, high performance services if you're familiar with tools like LSF and Spectrum Symphony and so on. Those are all enabled within this catalog. Data Power is there, and a DB2 data warehouse, and all those things. DevOps services like Microclimate, Microservice Builder, management tools like Netcool, and other tools. We incorporate Skydive as a technical preview that allows you to do network monitoring within your environment. So that's the kind of the nutshell of IBM Cloud Private. It enables you to run and manage your workloads and middleware to deliver, the business services that you need to build on top. And Kubernetes is a critical component of this. It provides that core runtime and management. Let me just switch back, talk a little bit about the activities, and they're a number of activities that people are working on. I'll just highlight a few areas, and other people can comment as well, right? In terms of where we're investing and involved in, within the core Kubernetes thing, we're making investments in the whole scheduling, resource management. We do have clients that are looking to run very sophisticated machine learning, deep learning models within the environment. They need advanced capabilities around GPUs, not just single GPU per job, but the notion of shared GPUs, allocating memory and understanding the CPU, GPU network topology, those kinds of things, more advanced sharing policies, advanced scheduling capabilities, and so on. So we started a project called Kube Arbitrator that is working in the Kubernetes community to bring some of these concepts within Kubernetes itself, right? Obviously, we're going to look at how to expose the interfaces that are necessary, and be able to provide implementations that are pluggable, that allows third-party tools and so on to be plugged in to provide additional capabilities beyond what is in the Kubernetes framework itself, right? We think Kubernetes is a great framework. It's extensible, especially things like the API layer, and scheduler is pluggable, and work is being done at the kubelet level to allow different types of resources to be represented and so on. So that's one area that we're working in. We're also contributing in ecosystem projects around Helm, especially around security, because that is an important consideration for us. There's work going on the service catalog that I think was mentioned earlier. Scalability is another important consideration for us. Although we're deploying things on premise, we do have clients that are looking to run on very large numbers of machines, even into thousands of machines beyond the scalability limits that are published now. In addition, Istio is another project, and again, there's a few people on the call that can comment as well. And we're working within the policy working group. That's another working group that we're quite involved in trying to bring together various notions of policy within Kubernetes and try to rationalize that and see if there's a consistent way of representing things like network policies and quotas and security policies and those kinds of things. So that's kind of what I wanted to share. The last chart gives you just a way of accessing this. So there is a community edition of IBM Cloud Private. As I said, it's not, you don't have to come to IBM to try it. You can, especially in the Kubernetes community, if they do want to, anybody does want to try IBM Cloud Private, there's a free version out there. It's all, the open source base, all the images are published in Docker Hub, and you can just pull them down and try it. So the link there gives you access to where that community edition can be gotten from. Okay, so I'll pause there. I know we didn't want this to run too long, but this was just kind of giving you a flavor. I think in future sessions, we'll talk about how we're exposing the Kubernetes technology on the public cloud, and maybe have some discussions and so on around that. And any other topics that you feel are important to cover, we can bring that to the table.
Yeah, that was great, Khalid. Thank you so much. Lots of good learning there. So, any questions? Anyone? All right. Well, if no questions, we can move forward. I think next thing in agenda is just an open discussion. Again, having this as our first meeting. Our agenda is a little bit short here. So any open discussion, anyone wants to talk about anything, questions?
Uh, yes, Adav. I do have one situation that I faced last week, and please let me know if that's out of context or here or not. But what happened is that we had a client that installed IBM Cloud Private into a certain environment, and he decided to take a certain directory. In that case, was var lib registry, and put as a mount point on that VM. So he explicitly went there and mounted var lib registry. And now one of the components of IBM Cloud Private also mounts var lib registry as var lib registry into a pod there. And so now we had the directory, the file system was mounted explicitly by the user, and now the pod also mounted the file system under the same name. Now, what happened is that when that pod dies, it unmounts the file system that the user explicitly mounted. So it seems that on Kubernetes, when we go there and we mount the file systems that were associated with a certain pod, we do that by name. And then for some reason, it's mounting the file system that the user mounted there.
Yeah.
So let me know if that's relevant here, or if I'm, because to me that's not a product. That's not Khalid's problem, but it's a problem of the behavior of Kubernetes.
Yeah, I think I've seen that before. Did you bind mount the thing, or do you just do a symlink?
I bind mounted that.
Okay.
Khalid. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I thought if you bind mounted it, then it would be it should be okay.
Okay.
But yeah, maybe there is some issue there.
Okay.
So yeah, that could be when you mount it into a pod. When the pod goes away, it shouldn't be unmounted from the host file system.
That's right. And that happens when it's under the same name. So in this case, it was the Docker registry that we put there. But if the pod is using var lib registry, and I explicitly mounted var lib registry, both mount points get unmounted. No.
Right. That could be an issue in Kubernetes if the bind mount is not working, because that's how I've usually done it. Right, I do a bind mount, and then it shouldn't unmount that bind mount. I would think. Right.
Okay.
So
Eduardo,
but yeah, Eduardo. Oh, sorry.
Have you brought this issue up to the Kubernetes community itself as an issue to see if other people are seeing it?
No, I have not, Doug. And so maybe I have to elevate for the IBM's discussion to the Kubernetes community.
Yeah, because I would imagine if that is an issue out there that's reproducible, I would imagine it's probably part of base Kubernetes. So we should bring that back to the community.
Yeah, I'll do that then, Doug. Thank you.
Yeah, and Eduardo, absolutely. I think that was a perfect question for this SIG, right? Like you mentioned. And I was about to say that, yeah, these are the kind of questions, right, from any users of IBM Cloud, right, developers. We can track them, right? We can discuss it further in the following meetings. Like Doug suggested, if you can open an issue itself, and please label it with the SIG/IBM Cloud. Okay. Right. Yeah. So I think. If others are not looking, maybe within our SIG, people will look at it, right? I'm sure the community itself will look at the issue as well.
Yes.
But we can discuss it further in future meetings.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Anything else, guys? I know. If there is not, so just quick note here. Next week we have a KubeCon, one of the flagship event for the community in Copenhagen. We will be having 5 minutes updates on IBM Cloud SIG there. It's part of the overall, all the SIG leads provide status updates on what's going on in the SIG. So I'll be providing one for our SIG, IBM Cloud one. If you are attending KubeCon, please join the discussion. It will be on next Tuesday, May 2nd, for the Contributor Summit timeframe. So if you are there, I look forward to see everyone there.
So are we going to have this call next week or no, Zadav?
Nope. So we will be having call every 2 week. Once a 2 week, it's a bi-weekly call. Yep.
I see. Okay.
So and it just happened that we
Yeah.
have smartly skipping any
Sure.
conflict there. So we'll
Okay.
have one on May 9th.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. Thanks again, Khalid, for the presentation. Thanks again, Doug, for taking notes, and thanks everyone for joining today's meeting. It was a good discussion, and I think together we will have a lot more discussions coming with the next meetings.
Yep.
So
just a quick announcement. I don't know if you guys saw it. We did ship Container D 1.1, which includes the container runtime interface plugged in. Which means we're all open source now. No Dockerisms are in the stack, and it is a GA, so we're supporting that release. I know ICP has been doing a bring up on Container D.
Yeah, I think the next version of ICP has Container D in there as an option, as a preview.
Yep. Just an announcement.
no,
Great.
We are GA.
Great.
Very good.
Yay. Yep. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
We'll see you in Europe.
Yep. Well, thanks everyone once again, and see you next week or following week. All right. Bye.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you all next week.